In this example, we will illustrate how to sketch the graph of a quadratic function by doing a few steps. We're going to put it in standard form. We're going to find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, its x-intercepts, and then sketch the graph. So our example is the function f of x is equal to 4x squared minus 24x plus 21. And our goal is to sketch the graph of f of x. So step 1 is to put f of x in standard form. And to put f of x in standard form, we need to complete the square. Alright, so we'll do that down here. So our function f of x is 4x squared minus 24x plus 21. So the first step is to factor out the coefficient in front of your x squared term. So that's a 4. And we're only able to factor it out the first two terms. So we'll get 4 times x squared minus 6x, close our parenthesis, plus 21. Now the next step is, this is where we take half of the middle term, which is negative 3, square that, and we get 9. This is what we add inside of our parentheses. So we're going to get 4 times x squared minus 6x, and now we will add that 9 and subtract it, close our parentheses, and we still have our plus 21. Now we're able to regroup things differently. So we're going to regroup the first 3 terms and then group the last term by itself when we distribute our 4. So this is going to give us 4 times x squared minus 6x plus 9 plus 4 times the negative 9, and then we still have our plus 21. Now what's nice about grouping it this way is that now this polynomial right here, that quadratic, it factors as a difference of squares. So we end up getting 4 times the quantity x minus 3 squared minus 36 plus 21. So our last step is that we have 4 times the quantity x minus 3 squared minus 15. So our standard form is exactly what we just found. This is our standard form. Once we are in standard form, we're immediately able to find our vertex and our axis of symmetry. So step 2 is to write that down. So our vertex point is going to be the point 3, negative 15, and our axis of symmetry is the vertical line. X is equal to 3. Step 3 is to find our x-intercepts. So to find your x-intercepts, you need to solve the equation f of x is equal to 0. Now, that's what we'll do here. Because we know what f of x is equal to, we'll start with our function in standard form. So we have 4 times x minus 3 squared minus 15. That's our function f of x. That's equal to 0. We can add 15 to both sides because we want to solve for x. So then that gives us 4 times x minus 3 squared is equal to 15. We can then divide by our 4 on both sides. And that gives us x minus 3 squared is equal to 15 over 4. Now we can take the square root of both sides. And we get the square root of x minus 3 squared is equal to the square root of 15 over 4. Now, on the left-hand side, the square roots are going to cancel, so we'll just left the square root and the square is going to cancel. So we're just left with x minus 3. And on the right-hand side, we have the square root of 15 over the square root of 4. Now, the square root of 4 can simplify. That's just 2. So then now, and in fact, let's go ahead and move up a little bit. So then now we have x minus 3 is equal to the square root of 15 over 2. And this square root is plus or minus, because remember when you take the square root, you have to add the plus or minus. So that's really plus or minus, because that's going to give us our 2 answers. So then we have x minus 3 is equal to the plus or minus square root of 15 over 2. We then add our 3 over to both sides. And then that gives us x is equal to plus or minus the square root of 15 over 2 plus 3. So that gives us 2 values for x. X when we have the positive square root of 15 over 2 plus 3, which is approximately 4.936. 936. And then we have the second value of x when we have a negative the square root of 15 over 2 plus 3, which is approximately 1.064. So we have our 2 x-intercepts, that value there, and then our 4.936. We know what our vertex and axis of symmetry is. So our last step is to just go ahead and sketch the graph. Sketch the graph of f of x. So we will draw our axis. We know we have an axis of symmetry at x is equal to 3. So that's going to kind of be a vertical line at x is equal to 3. And at negative 15, we know we have our vertex point at 3, negative 15. We have two x-intercepts, and then we can just fill in our curve. So it's a parabola going through our 2 intercept points. This one is at approximately 4.936, 0, and then the other one is at approximately 1.064, 0. So this is the sketch of the graph of our function f of x is equal to 4x squared minus 24x plus 21. And that completes that example.